poor girl was washing dishes and singing with a teacup, unaware that the millionaire chef was watching everything. And what he did surprised everyone. Before we start the story, leave a comment telling us which city you're watching from. Enjoy the story. Lily swayed in front of the sink, using a soup ladle like a conductor's baton, while a very expensive piece of Chinese porcelain served as her improvised microphone. The 25-year-old Mexican girl was completely caught up in the moment, eyes closed, earbuds hidden beneath her long black hair, totally unaware that she was in the most prestigious kitchen in Manhattan, right in the middle of the dinner rush. "And my heart is going to explode," she belted out, holding the final note with such passion that the teacup slipped from her soapy fingers and flew in a perfect arc through the air. That was exactly when fate, with its odd sense of humor, decided it was the perfect moment for Thomas Walker, renowned chef and owner of Millionaire, to walk into the service area. The cup, as if it had a mind of its own, flew straight toward his head. With reflexes worthy of a 3-Michelin-star ninja, Thomas dodged it, but the sudden move made him slip in a puddle of water and fall flat on his back, while the cup landed perfectly on a stack of napkins. "Holy tamales!" Lily shouted, yanking out her earbud so quickly that one dangled from her ear like a strange earring. "Mr. Walker, I didn't mean to. I didn't see you. Oh no, I killed the chef." Thomas, known as the Wolf of Gastronomy, a man who could make award-winning chefs cry with a single comment about their sauce, was now sprawled out on the wet kitchen floor, his perfectly white uniform stained with dirty water. To top it off, a piece of potato peel had landed right on his head like a makeshift culinary beret. "Tell me, Evans, do you try to assassinate all your bosses, or am I just special?" he asked with surprising calm. The entire kitchen froze. The sous chefs stopped with their knives mid-air. The sommelier stopped mid-pour. Even the steam from the pots seemed to pause. Lily, pale as a clean plate, could already picture herself being deported on the spot. You know my name?" she stammered. Thomas removed the potato peel from his head with as much dignity as he could muster. "I know the name of everyone who works in my kitchen, especially those who turn my service area into a stage from The Voice." To the horror of everyone present, who expected a public execution, Thomas smiled and added, "By the way, I would have hit the golden buzzer." A junior sous chef dropped a stack of plates, shattering the stunned silence. Thomas stood up, straightened his soaked uniform, and pointed at 2 cooks. "You two, clean up this mess." Then he turned to Lily, who was trembling like a pancake on a whisk. "And you, Celine Dion of the silverware, come with me." "Am I fired?" Lily asked, already imagining the speech she'd have to give to her Aunt Clara's photo. "That depends on your answer to my next question," Thomas said, guiding her out of earshot from the others. Lily swallowed hard. It felt like she'd swallowed a whole slotted spoon. Thomas leaned in, his gaze intense. "What's wrong with my pomegranate sauce? I heard you humming something about this sauce needs therapy and orange peel while washing the pans." "I said that?" Lily covered her face with her hands. "My brain and my mouth aren't exclusive. Sometimes they work for different companies." Thomas crossed his arms and waited. Okay, Lily sighed. "It's just, the sauce is sad." "Sad?" "Yes, sad. Like a Mexican soap opera with no drama. Technically it's correct, but it has no soul. It needs toasted orange peel and a hint of cinnamon. It's like a singer who hits every note but moves no one, you know?" Thomas opened his mouth to reply, but was interrupted by a whirlwind of long legs and French perfumes sweeping through the kitchen. Vanessa Miller, his fiancée and heir to a rival restaurant chain. "Thomas, darling, the mayor is asking where your famous duck is. He says he's hungry enough to eat 1 feathers and all." Vanessa stopped short when she saw her fiancé soaking wet. "Oh my, did you go swimming in the sauce?" Her cat-like eyes landed on Lily, scanning her from head to toe like she was a suspicious ingredient. "And who is this wet person?" "Our acoustics expert for pots and pans," Thomas replied with a perfectly straight face. "Evans, aren't you going to greet my fiancé?" Lily automatically extended her soapy hand, then realized the horror and quickly pulled it back, wiping it frantically on her apron. Very nice to meet you, ma'am. I'm Lily Evans, the, person in charge of cleaning the culinary instruments post-operation." "She does the dishes," Thomas translated, a hint of amusement in his eyes. Fascinating, Vanessa replied, with all the excitement of someone finding a cockroach in her designer handbag. Thomas, darling, we need the duck now. Unless you'd prefer the mayor use his power to turn this restaurant into a parking lot. Thomas nodded, slipping back into his professional demeanor. The duck will be on the table in 5 minutes. Then, turning to Lily, he added, Evans, finish your aquatic symphony and come over to my station. I want your opinion on the sauce. My opinion? Lily's eyes widened, nearly knocking over another cup. But I'm just the dish washer, yes, one with an exceptional sense of taste and sound. Thomas walked off, only to add with a small smile, and quite a right hook, judging by that cup's flight. As the chef disappeared, Vanessa stayed behind, blocking Lily's path back to the sink. I don't know what kind of act you're trying to pull, dear, but save your talents for the local karaoke bar and stay away from my fiancé, she said in a low voice, as sharp as a well-honed knife. Lily, who usually had the courage of a pea in confrontational situations, felt something stir inside her. Perhaps the spirit of her Aunt Clara, the legendary Mexican chef. I'm just here to work, Mrs. Miller, but if Chef Walker asks for my professional opinion on the acoustics of soap bubbles, who am I to refuse? Vanessa narrowed her eyes. You won't last a week, little Mexican girl. Technically, I've already been here for 2 months, Lily replied with a smile, surprising even herself. Must be the scent of my dish soap that keeps the food critics coming back. As Vanessa walked off like she was strutting down a Paris runway, Lily dashed back to her sink, leaning on it and breathing like she'd just run a marathon. Hey, Aunt Clara, what have I gotten myself into? She whispered to the photo tucked among the cleaning supplies, an elegant woman holding a culinary award. I've caught the chef's attention faster than your plans suggested. On the small kitchen radio, the announcer declared, and now Dreaming, sung by Celia Cruz. Lily smiled, grabbing her mug microphone again. It's a sign, Tia. We're getting closer to finding out what really happened in this kitchen 15 years ago, and to clearing your name. Across the kitchen, Thomas was adding toasted orange peel and a pinch of cinnamon to his sauce, trying not to smile as the melodic voice filled the back room again. There was something refreshing, almost magical, about that clumsy, musical Mexican girl. What he didn't know was that Lily Evans wasn't there just to wash dishes and sing. Her true purpose at Le Millionaire was something he'd find out soon enough. Le Millionaire ran like a Swiss watch after dinner, every cog turning in perfect harmony. Sous chefs cleaned their stations with surgical precision, assistants prepped ingredients for the next day, and Lily was having an intense argument with a particularly stubborn plate. You think you'll win this battle, Mr. Dried Sauce Stain? I've fought crusty taco salsa for 5 years in Mexico. You're no match for my brush. Scrubbing vigorously while humming a made-up version of La Cucaracha aimed at stubborn stains, Lily didn't realize she had drawn a one-man audience. Thomas Walker watched, fascinated, as the shy dishwasher transformed into a fierce commander of a dirt-fighting mission. There was something magnetic about her, as if every move was part of a perfectly choreographed routine. I think you've defeated that plate, Evans. Holy guacamole, Lily jumped, and the plate slipped from her hands like a soap-covered frisbee, sailing through the air in a perfect arc. Thomas stood still, watching in slow motion. What happened next felt like a scene from a disaster movie. The plate struck a stack of expensive, limited-edition French dishes from the Royale collection, ones Thomas had imported especially for next week's charity dinner. The crash that followed could have been the soundtrack to a culinary apocalypse. Lily froze, her face paler than pastry dough. Her eyes darted from the horrified faces of her coworkers to the floor, where roughly $20,000 worth of fine porcelain lay in shattered pieces. I'm dead, she whispered, already imagining life as an international fugitive, possibly changing her name to Consuela and selling tacos on some remote Caribbean beach. The kitchen, usually a whirlwind of noise, fell into a silence so deep you could hear a truffle drop. All eyes went back and forth between the broken pieces on the floor and Thomas, waiting for the inevitable explosion from the wolf of gastronomy. Miguel, the bartender and Lily's best friend, appeared at the kitchen door, drawn by the noise, and immediately knew the end of the world had arrived. Oh boy, he muttered, already mentally calculating how much it would cost to bribe an immigration officer. Thomas walked slowly toward Lily, stepping around the shards like a predator circling its prey. His face was impossibly calm, the kind of calm that comes before a tornado. "Evans, please don't deport me," Lily begged, eyes shut. "I have an aunt who needs the money I send her and a parrot who's very emotionally dependent." Thomas raised one eyebrow. "You have a parrot?" "No, but I could adopt one to make my story more touching," she answered automatically, then covered her mouth. "Sorry, I say silly things when I'm nervous." To everyone's surprise, and possibly all of New York's food industry, Thomas Walker did something completely unexpected. He laughed, not a polite chuckle, but a deep, genuine laugh that made the hanging pans vibrate. "Evans, you're a natural disaster, a hurricane in an apron. You're not going to kill me with that sashimi knife from Japan?" Thomas shook his head, still smiling. "For your information, that knife is only for high-class fish. It would be a waste to use it on dishwashers." Then, to everyone's amazement, he walked over to a stove nearby where a small pot was partially hidden behind a cutting board. "What's this?" he asked, lifting the lid. Lily wished she could teleport anywhere else, preferably another planet, as Thomas uncovered her secret experiment. "It's just a silly little test, a sauce I was trying," she swallowed hard. "Back home, we cook to chase away sadness, and breaking expensive dishes apparently made me really sad." Thomas took a spoon and tasted the sauce, his face shifting into a professional mask that was impossible to read. The whole kitchen seemed to be holding its breath. "Who taught you to make this?" he finally asked in an unusually soft voice. "My Aunt Clara. She used to say a good sauce is like a good song. It needs harmony, but also a surprising note that makes you want more." A strange shadow crossed Thomas's face, something between recognition and confusion. "This flavor, it's familiar." Lily's heart skipped a beat. He recognized it, she thought, trying to keep her face neutral. "Maybe because I used ingredients from your restaurant. Totally without permission," she blurted, then stumbled over her words. "I mean, not stolen, borrowed, permanently. I mean, temporarily. I'll return all the cumin I took." Thomas came back to the moment, looking at the broken porcelain, and then at Lily. "I should fire you," he said, making her visibly shrink. "I should make you pay for this porcelain, which would take about 40 years of washing dishes." The other staff members exchanged sympathetic looks. Miguel was already quietly pulling money from his pocket, planning a collection to help his friend escape. "But I won't do that." The whole kitchen let out an audible sigh. "You won't?" Lily asked, confused. "No, I'm promoting you." The silence that followed was so heavy it could have been sliced, served, and earned a Michelin star. "Promoting?" Lily repeated, as if the word were in a foreign language. "To kitchen assistant," he announced, as if it were the most natural thing in the world to promote someone who had just destroyed a fortune in fine china. "Starting tomorrow, we need someone with your unique taste and musical sense." Jean-Pierre, the French sous chef, dropped his spatula in shock. "But chef, she doesn't even have formal training, and you have 4 degrees and still make a soufflé that weeps when it leaves the oven," Thomas replied coolly. "Sometimes what we need is less technique and more heart." He turned to Lily. "Kitchen assistant, you'll work directly with me, double your current salary." Lily opened and closed her mouth several times, like a very confused fish. "But why?" Thomas pointed to the sauce. "Because anyone who can make a sauce like that deserves better than scrubbing other people's plates. And because," he paused, as if trying to solve a puzzle, "there's something in that sauce that reminds me of something important I've forgotten." In the corner of the kitchen, Miguel watched everything with narrowed eyes. He walked over to Lily as Thomas stepped away to give instructions about cleaning up the broken pieces. "This is really strange, my friend. He promotes the walking disaster to assistant after you nearly wrecked half the kitchen? Something doesn't smell right. And it's not the blue cheese in the fridge." Lily shrugged, still in a bit of a daze. "Maybe he hit his head when he fell yesterday? Or maybe—" Miguel looked around and lowered his voice. "He knows who your aunt is." A chill ran down Lily's spine. "That's impossible. He was way too young when it happened. And her name isn't on any records here. I checked." "Just be careful, Lily. You came here to wash dishes and investigate, not to get close to the wolf that's playing with fire." "Water, actually." she corrected, showing her wrinkled hands. But don't worry, I know exactly what I'm doing. At that very moment, Thomas was watching the security footage on his phone, Lily washing dishes while singing. There was something captivating about her, something beyond the well-tuned voice or hidden culinary talent. Something familiar and new at the same time. The chef rubbed his temple. That sauce, the taste brought back a distant memory, a culinary ghost he couldn't quite identify. Across town, in a small apartment in Queens, an elderly woman answered the phone, smiling as she heard her niece's nervous and excited voice. Clara, you won't believe it. I'm in. The chef promoted me to assistant after he tasted your secret sauce. But there's something strange. He said he recognized the taste. Of course he did, mija, said Doña Clara with a smile full of pride and resolve. That sauce is the secret your father stole from me 15 years ago. It's the proof we needed. Lily clutched the phone tightly, feeling the weight of the family mission. So what now? Now you're exactly where we need you. The recipe was just the beginning. The real treasure is hidden in his office, a document that proves everything. Lily swallowed hard. I'm scared, Aunt. Don't be. You have the best weapon. He can't take his eyes off you when you sing. Use that. At Le Millionaire, the staff were cleaning up the last of the mess, chatting about the unexpected promotion. In all the confusion, no one noticed when Thomas returned to taste the mysterious sauce one more time, like someone trying to recall a half-forgotten melody. Yes, there was something in that sauce, something that brought back dark memories of his father's guilt, something dangerous and delicious at the same time, like Lily Evans herself. Let's have a little fun with those who only read the comments. Type pizza in the comments. Only those who've read this far will get it. Now let's get back to the story. The news of Lily Evans' promotion, the singing dishwasher, spread through Le Millionaire like hot grease in a frying pan. In less than 24 hours, the story had been seasoned with speculation, fried in conspiracy theories, and served with a generous side of jealousy. She must be related to him, a waitress whispered. I heard she can hypnotize people with that voice, theorized a sous chef. She probably has compromising photos of the chef with a spatula, suggested Jean-Pierre, still in disbelief. The truth, however, was far messier, as Lily showed on her first official day as kitchen assistant. Watch the yolk, Thomas shouted, horrified, as he saw Lily try to separate an egg with all the finesse of a bullfighter handling dynamite. The yolk burst in her trembling hands, dripping between her fingers like a little golden disaster. Does this count as a deconstructed omelet? She asked with a hopeful smile. Thomas took a deep breath, something he'd done about 47 times in the past 2 hours. Evans, you need to be gentle with the egg. It's not your personal enemy. Sorry, chef. It's just, I'm nervous. My hands are used to sponges, not living things. Eggs aren't alive, Evans. Oh, Lily looked genuinely relieved. That makes things easier. I thought I was committing culinary murder. Thomas rubbed his temples, wondering briefly if his impulsive decision would bankrupt the restaurant before the week was over. But then something unexpected happened. Lily started to hum softly as she tried again, a gentle melody that seemed to calm not just her but the entire kitchen. Her movements grew smoother, almost like a graceful dance. Come on, little one, don't be afraid of me, she whispered to the egg as if charming it. With surprising precision, she cracked it on the edge of the bowl and perfectly separated the white from the yolk without breaking the delicate membrane. Thomas watched the transformation, completely fascinated. How did you do that? Lily shrugged, looking just as surprised as he was. I sang to it. My aunt always said food has a soul and it responds to music. Like plants, you know? Only faster and tastier. The chef frowned, a faint memory trying to surface in his mind. That reminds me of something my father once said about a chef who... He stopped, shaking his head. Never mind. Keep going with the eggs. We need 30 separated for today's menu. The morning went by in a series of kitchen disasters, followed by moments of unexpected brilliance. Lily spilled vegetable broth in her shoes, cut herself 3 times, nothing serious, broke a wire whisk, and almost turned cream into butter by overbeating it. But she also made a perfect emulsion while humming La Bamba, seasoned a mushroom sauce with the precision of a Swiss watchmaker, and, to everyone's surprise, calmed an argument between 2 sous chefs, simply by improvising a funny song about them. "It's like watching a car crash that somehow turns into a piece of art," said Miguel, who had wandered into the kitchen to grab some lemons, his official excuse for checking if his friend was still alive. "She's a walking mess with flashes of genius," Thomas replied, watching Lily from across the kitchen as she cheerfully chatted with an onion before slicing it. "I've never seen anything like it." Miguel narrowed his eyes, noticing how the chef was looking at his friend. "You know, chef, she might seem odd, but she's got a big heart and a sad story. Orphaned, raised by an aunt who was a chef and lost everything." "Lost everything how?" Miguel bit his tongue, realizing he'd said too much. "Oh, you know, immigrant life. The American dream that turns into the American nightmare. The usual." Thomas looked like he wanted to ask more, but the growing sound of sharp heels striking the kitchen floor interrupted him, like tiny hammers announcing the apocalypse. Vanessa Miller walked into the kitchen like an Arctic wind, leaving everyone slightly frozen in her wake. Her red dress looked like a declaration of war among the white uniforms. "Thomas, darling, I came to get you for lunch with the investors of—" She stopped when she saw Lily, now holding a knife far too big for her small hands. "What is that dishwasher doing with that knife? Trying to murder French cuisine?" Thomas stepped in quickly, positioning himself between the two women like a referee in a fight that hadn't started yet, but promised to be bloody. "Vanessa, this is Lily Evans, my new kitchen assistant." The kitchen temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. "You're what?" "Kitchen assistant," he repeated, with a calm tone that clashed with the storm of emotion on his fiancée's face. "She has an exceptional palate and an unusual approach to cooking." Vanessa looked Lily up and down, like she was inspecting spoiled produce at the market. "Kitchen assistant? Her, the girl who was washing dishes, the same one who yesterday couldn't tell your Armani jacket from a dish towel." "Well, in her defense," Thomas said with a touch of humor, "they're both made of fabric and cover things." Vanessa didn't laugh. Her gaze returned to Lily, who was smiling nervously, still holding the oversized knife like a particularly dangerous magic wand. "And what does Jean-Pierre think of this meteoric promotion?" As if summoned by the devil himself, Jean-Pierre appeared beside them, his French mustache trembling with barely contained indignation. "Madame Miller, I respect the chef's decisions, even when they seem to have been made under the influence of mushrooms not approved by the FDA." "Thank you, Jean-Pierre," Thomas said dryly. "Your loyalty is, as always, touching." Feeling the tension rise, Lily did what she always did in uncomfortable situations. She started talking nonstop. "You know, Mrs. Miller, I'm just as surprised by this promotion as you are. I mean, yesterday I was talking to sponges, and today I'm cutting things that cost more than my rent. It's like one of those makeover stories, you know? Like Cinderella, except instead of a glass slipper I have a sauce-stained apron, and instead of a fairy godmother I've got Miguel over there, who, by the way, makes the best cocktails in town, but don't tell anyone he adds a secret powder that I think might be an illegal additive. Not that I'm accusing anyone of anything." "Evans, breathe," Thomas said, trying not to laugh. Vanessa stepped closer to Lily, her expensive perfume invading the young woman's personal space like a conquering army. "Listen, dear, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but I know women like you. You come in with your smiles and sad stories, pretending to be innocent while planning every move." "Actually, I'm terrible at math," Lily interrupted. "I failed it 3 times. My aunt used to say I could mess up counting rice grains." Vanessa narrowed her eyes. "Thomas might be temporarily enchanted, but I run 6 restaurants, dear. I know an opportunist when I see one." Lily swallowed hard, tasting a bitter mix of fear and growing indignation. That woman wasn't just insulting her. She was indirectly insulting her Aunt Clara and everything they had been through. "With all due respect, Mrs. Miller, I just want a chance to work and learn, and maybe wash fewer pans, because my hands already have more wrinkles than an old bulldog." Thomas took a step forward, his expression firming. "Vanessa, that's enough. The decision was mine and it's final. Evans is now part of the creative team." "Creative team?" Vanessa and Jean-Pierre gasped in unison. "Exactly," Thomas confirmed. "In fact, I'll be having lunch here today. I need to work on the new menu with my assistant." The fire in Vanessa's eyes could have easily replaced the industrial oven. Thomas, the investors are waiting. Send my apologies. Tell them I'm in the middle of a culinary revolution. Vanessa adjusted her expensive handbag under her arm like a warrior adjusting her shield. Fine. Do as you wish. You're the genius here. She turned to leave, but as she passed by Lily, her arm accidentally bumped into the sauce Lily had been preparing. The bowl teetered dangerously, threatening to spill all over the spotless floor. With reflexes that surprised even herself, Lily caught the bowl, saving the sauce, but sending a good amount of it in a perfect arc that landed right on Vanessa's red dress, creating a stain that oddly resembled the map of Mexico. The silence that followed was so thick it could have been served as dessert. "My Valentino dress!" Vanessa shrieked, staring at the stain as if Lily had just stabbed her firstborn. "Technically, the sauce costs more per gram than the fabric," Thomas remarked, unable to hold back a smile. "Go ahead, laugh, Thomas. Find it amusing. But this person has been causing chaos and destruction since she got here. First your porcelain dishes, now my dress. What's next? The entire restaurant?" Thomas surprised everyone, especially Lily, by placing a protective hand on her shoulder. "What's next? Vanessa, are the best reviews this restaurant has ever received. Evans has something you can't teach, intuition and passion. Things we've been missing lately." The look Vanessa shot Lily could have frozen hell itself. "You'll regret this, darling. And as for you," she pointed a perfectly manicured finger at Lily, "this isn't over." After Vanessa's dramatic exit, the kitchen stayed silent for a few moments until Miguel let out a low whistle. "Wow, Lily, you just made an enemy more poisonous than a pufferfish." Lily leaned on the counter, suddenly pale. "She's gonna kill me, isn't she? With those sharp heels, she'll turn me into human stew." "No one's turning anyone into stew," Thomas replied, though he didn't sound completely convinced. "Not in my kitchen, at least. Too much paperwork afterward." Lily looked at him, genuinely confused. "Why are you defending me, chef? I just ruined your fiancé's dress after breaking your expensive dishes. Most bosses would have thrown me out the window by now, and we're on the 12th floor." Thomas turned serious, his eyes locked on hers. "Because when you hum while you cook, I see something I had forgotten. Joy, passion, love for what we do here." He pointed toward the sauce still in the bowl. "This sauce you made, it reminds me of something important, an unpaid debt." Lily's heart skipped a beat. She was getting closer to her goal. What kind of debt? But Thomas had already turned away, slipping back into his usual demanding chef role. "Forget it. We've got work to do, and you need to learn how to use that knife before you decapitate someone. Preferably not my fiancé, tempting as that may be right now." The rest of the day was a whirlwind of activity. Lily learned more about cooking in the next 6 hours than she had in the last 6 months. Thomas was a strict but patient teacher, pointing out mistakes without being harsh and quietly celebrating her small victories. What surprised the young Mexican woman most was that he actually listened when she suggested changes or additions to classic dishes. "What if we add a touch of cinnamon here?" she suggested timidly while preparing a sauce for meats. "Cinnamon with red meat." Jean-Pierre looked like he was about to have a heart attack. Culinary blasphemy! But Thomas just thought for a moment, then nodded. "Try it. Just a pinch." The result was so surprising that even Jean-Pierre had to admit, reluctantly, like a true Frenchman facing foreign cuisine, "It's not completely terrible." At the end of the shift, while the team was cleaning their stations, Thomas called Lily into his office. Her heart raced. She was finally going to enter the place where her aunt believed the proof they needed was hidden. The office was elegant and minimal, with shelves full of cookbooks and a few framed photos. Lily tried not to look too obvious as she scanned every inch of the space, searching for something familiar. And then she saw it. On the wall behind the desk, partly hidden by awards and certificates, was an old photograph. In it, an older man who looked a lot like Thomas, obviously his father, was smiling beside a middle-aged Mexican chef. Her Aunt Clara. Lily couldn't hold back a gasp. "Do you know that woman?" Thomas asked, noticing her reaction. She turned away, trying to hide her emotions. "No, she just looks like someone I've seen before." Thomas looked at the photo. "She was a chef who worked for my dad briefly, before this place became the Millionaire. Elena, or Clara, something like that. I think she went back to Mexico." And why keep her picture up? Thomas frowned like he was asking himself the same question. My dad kept it. After he passed, I just left everything as it was. There was more to that story. Lily could feel it. But before she could ask anything else, Thomas shifted back into professional mode. Evans, I want you to work with me on the new menu. We need fresh ideas, surprising flavors, something that sets Le Millionaire apart. Lily blinked several times. Me? But I'm just a former dishwasher who got promoted literally 12 hours ago. Exactly. You're not stuck in old habits. You're not afraid to mix the unexpected. He paused, like your aunt used to do. Lily froze. My aunt? You said she was a chef, right? That she taught you about the sauce? Oh, right. Lily laughed nervously. Home chef, you know? She was great with comforting Mexican food. Nothing fancy. Thomas didn't look fully convinced, but he didn't push. Well, I want you to bring that spirit in here. Food that tells stories, that moves people. Can you do that? Lily swallowed hard, thinking about her situation. She was being invited to help design the menu of the man her family had sworn to take down. At the same time, it gave her access to everything she needed to uncover. Her aunt had been right. She was exactly where she needed to be. I can try, chef. Thomas smiled, and for the first time, Lily saw something genuinely kind in the man everyone feared. Great. Start thinking about ideas. I want to brainstorm tomorrow. As she left the office, Lily felt the weight of what she was doing. On one side, there was her mission, her aunt's revenge, the justice that needed to be done. On the other, there was Thomas, who didn't seem like the villain they thought, and this amazing opportunity most chefs would kill for. In the lobby, Miguel was waiting for her. Well, did you see anything? Yes, Lily replied, distracted. A photo of her with his father. Just like she said it would be. And the document? Not yet. I need more time. Miguel studied his friend's face. Are you sure you want to keep going with this, Lily? You seem different. What do you mean? I don't know. Like you're starting to actually like it here. Lily adjusted her bag on her shoulder, avoiding his eyes. I'm just playing my part, like we agreed. Nothing's changed. But something had changed. And as they walked home through the New York twilight, Lily couldn't stop thinking about the look on Thomas's face when he tasted her sauce. The way he defended her from Vanessa. The trust he was placing in her. And for the first time since arriving at Le Millionaire, Lily Evans wondered if she was on the right side of this story. Across town, Thomas Walker stared at the old photograph in his office, a question growing in his mind. There was something familiar about the new assistant, something in her eyes, in the way she talked about food, something that triggered a distant memory. And in her luxury apartment, Vanessa Miller was making phone calls, determined to find out exactly who Lily Evans was, and what a simple Mexican dishwasher might be hiding. Le Millionaire After Hours was a completely different place. Without the rush of orders, the clatter of dishes, and the pressure of demanding guests, the kitchen felt almost like an abandoned temple, its stainless steel surfaces quietly gleaming under the emergency lights. Lily Evans checked the time. 11:47 p.m. The night security guard would be doing his rounds downstairs, and she had exactly 18 minutes to explore Thomas's office without interruption. This is crazy, she muttered to herself as she entered the code she had discreetly watched Thomas use earlier. Breaking in, spying, and possibly a federal offense. All in one Tuesday night. Aunt Clara owes me a lot of guacamole after this. The office door clicked open with barely a sound, and Lily slipped inside like a startled cat. She turned on only the small desk lamp, casting a soft, golden circle of light that barely reached halfway across the room. Okay, important document. Time to show yourself, she whispered, scanning the shelves and drawers. If I were a secret file stealing recipes from talented Mexican chefs, where would I hide? She started methodically, going through the desk drawers. The first held only office supplies, organized with almost obsessive neatness. The second, drafts of menus and notes about suppliers. For someone known for chaotic creativity, this man is annoyingly organized, she muttered, opening the third drawer. There, she found a collection of newspaper clippings carefully preserved in plastic sleeves. Most were about Le Millionaire and its success, but one in particular caught her eye. It was a small note in Spanish from a Mexican newspaper announcing the closure of the restaurant Sabor de Casa in New York 15 years ago. her Aunt Clara's restaurant. Lily's heart skipped a beat. Why would Thomas keep this? She kept searching, growing more anxious by the second. Then she noticed an old cookbook on the top shelf with a worn red cover and the title Walker Family Secrets in gold letters. Bingo, she whispered, stretching on her toes to reach it. The book was heavier than it looked, and Lily almost dropped it when she finally pulled it free. She opened it with trembling fingers, carefully flipping through the yellowed pages. What she found made her heart stop. There were recipes her aunt had described in detail. The pomegranate cinnamon sauce that had become the restaurant's signature, the marinade technique for meats that made Thomas famous, the spiced soufflé that had won 3 international awards, each one signed not by Alexander Walker, Thomas's father, but by Clara Hernandez, her aunt. And on the last page, almost like a final insult, a handwritten note from Alexander. Remember, Thomas, cooking is business. Sentiment doesn't fill restaurants. What matters is who gets the credit, not who came up with it first. Build your empire with what we have. Don't worry about the past. Lily felt her stomach turn. So it was true, she whispered, feeling a mix of triumph and nausea. He really stole everything from her. She was so focused on the discovery that she didn't hear the approaching footsteps or notice when the office door quietly opened. Find something interesting. Lily let out a muffled gasp, dropping the book with a dull thud. Thomas Walker was leaning against the doorway, his eyes locked on her like a predator watching its prey. Chef, I was just... Lily looked around frantically, as if the universe might provide a good excuse for sneaking into his office just before midnight. Snooping around my office and going through my things? He finished for her, his voice dangerously calm. Looking for sauce recipes, she said, with a smile so forced even a 5-year-old could see through it. You know how it is, acute culinary insomnia. Very common problem in Mexico. Thomas walked into the room and closed the door behind him. Instead of calling security or yelling, as Lily had expected, he simply bent down and picked up the fallen book. You know what's funny, Evans? He said, flipping through the book like it was familiar. I used to think it was a coincidence. Your accent, the way you sing while you cook, your instinct with spices. But it's not a coincidence, is it? Lily felt her blood run cold. I don't know what you're talking about. Thomas opened the book to a specific page, an old photo showing her Aunt Clara, much younger, holding a baby with a little girl by her side. This is you, isn't it? With your aunt. The silence that followed was as heavy as a cast-iron pan. How? How did you find out? Lily finally asked, realizing there was no use denying it. I still haven't figured it out, he said, sitting down in the chair. I had my suspicions, but you just confirmed them. What I don't understand is why. Why would Clara Hernandez's niece be washing dishes in my restaurant? It was like a dam burst inside Lily. 15 years of pain, watching her aunt lose everything, hearing stories about how the Walker family didn't just steal her recipes but her dreams, came pouring out. Because your father stole everything from her. Every recipe that made this place famous, he kicked her out of her own restaurant and threatened to deport her if she tried to fight for what was rightfully hers. The words spilled from her like boiling water. She was a brilliant chef, but because she was an immigrant woman, no one believed her when she tried to tell the truth. Thomas didn't look angry, just deeply tired. And you came here to, what? Take revenge for your aunt? Sabotage my restaurant? No. Lily looked horrified at the idea. I came to find proof, documents that show the recipes were hers, something that would force you to acknowledge what happened. Thomas let out a long, heavy sigh. Lily, may I call you Lily now that we're no longer pretending? He didn't wait for an answer. I was just a teenager when all that happened. My father always said Clara had been just an employee who tried to steal the family's secrets when she left to start her own place. That's not true. It was the other way around. Thomas raised his hands in surrender. I'm starting to realize that. But you have to understand. I grew up believing his version. It was only recently, after he passed and I found this book, that I started to have doubts. That caught Lily off guard. Doubts? Why would a family recipe book have Clara Hernandez's name on almost every dish? Why would my father keep a newspaper clipping about her restaurant closing down? Thomas ran a hand through his hair in frustration. That's when I started to question the story he told me. Lily stared at him, trying to process what she was hearing. So, you didn't know? Not for sure. Not until you showed up and started cooking like Clara Hernandez's spirit had taken over the kitchen. He almost smiled. That sauce you made on your first day? I recognized it right away. It was my father's favorite, but he never could get it quite right, no matter how hard he tried. Lily felt torn, caught between loyalty to her aunt and the confusion stirred up by Thomas's honesty. He seemed genuinely troubled by what he had discovered. What are you going to do with me now? Call the police? Deport me like your father threatened to do to my aunt? Thomas slowly shook his head. I'm not doing any of that. In fact, he hesitated, like he was weighing something important. I think we need to talk to your aunt. What? I want to hear her side of the story, directly, and I want to find out what really happened between her and my father. Lily was about to respond when the sound of footsteps in the hallway interrupted them. They both froze, staring at the door. Quick. Behind the bookshelf, Thomas whispered, gently guiding her to a dark corner of the office. The door swung open, and a visibly irritated Vanessa Miller stepped in. Thomas? What are you doing here so late? Her eyes scanned the room, suspicious. And why do you have that old book? Couldn't sleep. Thought I'd go over some old recipes, he replied smoothly. What about you? I came back for my bracelet. I left it earlier today, she said, walking further into the room, sniffing the air like a predator. I thought I heard voices. Were you talking to someone? You probably heard me on the phone. I was leaving a voicemail for Jean-Pierre about tomorrow's prep. Vanessa didn't seem convinced. She moved closer to the bookshelf, dangerously close to where Lily was curled up, trying to make herself invisible. This place feels different. It's the same office it's always been, Vanessa, Thomas said, stepping neatly between her and the shelf. Did you find your bracelet? No, she said, stepping back reluctantly. Must have left it in the car. Thomas nodded and headed for the door. In that case, let's go. It's late, and we both need some rest. As he led her out, he cast one last meaningful glance toward the corner where Lily was hiding. 15 minutes later, when she finally felt safe enough to leave the office, Lily found a note taped to the inside doorknob. The truth is more complicated than it seems. Talk to your aunt. Bring her to the restaurant after closing tomorrow. For now, let this stay between us. Lily folded the note and slipped it into her pocket, her heart pounding so hard it felt like it might burst from her chest. What started as a simple dishwashing job had now become something far more complicated, and she wasn't sure she was ready for what came next. Absolutely not. Over my dead body. Not even if tamales started falling from the sky. Aunt Clara crossed her arms, her posture as firm as her words. At 63, Clara Hernandez still had the commanding presence that once made her a respected chef, before the scandal ruined her career. But Auntie, this is our chance to prove everything. He wants to hear your side of the story. For what? So he can laugh at the old Mexican lady one more time? Clara adjusted her red-framed glasses, her eyes sparking with outrage. The Walkers have laughed enough at me for one lifetime. Lily sighed and sat down at the small kitchen table in the apartment they shared. On the wall, dozens of yellowed clippings showed Clara in her glory days, before Alexander Walker ruined it all. Thomas is different. He really didn't know anything, or at least he wasn't sure. He found the cookbook with your name in it, and now he's asking questions. Clara let out a skeptical noise. Mija, you're too naive. Of course he's pretending. First he promotes you, then acts surprised when he finds out who you are. It's all a game to keep you quiet. But what if it's real? What if he really wants to make up for what his father did? Clara finally sat down, studying her niece's face closely. Lily Evans Hernandez, I know that look. You're not just after justice now, are you? Lily looked away, suddenly fascinated by the cracks in the formica table. I don't know what you're talking about. You like him. It wasn't a question. The son of the man who destroyed our lives. I do not like him. Lily protested, blushing deeply. I just think he deserves a chance to hear the truth. Clara let out a long sigh. Ay, mija. The heart is a dangerous ingredient in any recipe, especially when it's mixed with revenge. Before Lily could answer, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Thomas. Official invite, culinary gala tomorrow. You as my assistant. Formal attire, important for the restaurant. Say yes. Is it him? Clara asked, noticing the change in her niece's expression. Yes, he wants me to go to a gala tomorrow as his official assistant. A calculating gleam lit up Clara's eyes. The annual Culinary Association Gala? Everyone will be there. Critics, chefs, the press. Lily nodded. Auntie, I think we should reconsider meeting with him. Yes, Clara agreed, surprising her niece. But not tomorrow. First, you go to that gala, with your head held high like a true Hernandez. Show them all you belong in that world just as much as they do. Lily's eyes widened. Are you crazy? I don't have anything to wear. I don't even know how to behave at events like that. I'll look like a clumsy mole among peacocks. Clara stood up with renewed determination. Moles dig tunnels, mija. And that's exactly what you're going to do. Dig a tunnel straight to the truth. The next day, Lily's apartment turned into an improvised beauty operations center. Miguel had brought his cousin Rosita, a makeup artist from a small off-Broadway theater, and his friend Eduardo, who worked at a dress rental shop in Queens. My God, woman, your hair has more knots than a fisherman's net, Rosita complained, wrestling a brush through Lily's wild hair. Did you tell him you're allergic to lobster? Miguel asked for the third time. Because last time you had shellfish, your face puffed up like a party balloon. Aye, Miguel, she's not going to eat anything, Eduardo exclaimed, adjusting the teal dress he had smuggled out of the shop. She'll be too busy being glamorous and mysterious. Lily watched her transformation in the mirror, barely recognizing the woman emerging from the impromptu beauty session. When she was finally ready, even Aunt Clara was speechless for a moment. Mija, you look just like your mother. It was the highest compliment she could have received. The Legrand Hotel sparkled like a jewel in the Manhattan night, filled with culinary celebrities and socialites hungrier for connections than for food. Lily entered nervously, feeling like an imposter in her borrowed gown. Thomas stood at the entrance, striking in his tuxedo, and for one awkward moment he didn't recognize her. I'm looking for my assistant, Lily Evans. Have you seen her around? He stopped, his eyes widening comically. Evans? Surprise, she mumbled, uncomfortable. Turns out there's a woman hiding under all that sauce and flour. Thomas looked genuinely impressed. You look different. Different as in good or different as in who let the dishwasher into the party? He smiled and offered his arm. Different as in stunning. Lily blushed furiously, silently thanking the generous layer of foundation Rosita had applied. The evening was going surprisingly well. Lily had discovered that, despite her lack of formal training, she knew more about food than many of the wealthy guests. Her smart comments about flavor combinations even caught the attention of a few critics. You have a remarkable palate, said an older woman whom Lily later learned was Helena Monroe, the most feared food critic in New York. Actually, I come from the dishwashing station, Lily replied honestly, making Thomas choke on his champagne. To both of their surprise, Helena burst out laughing. Delightful. Finally someone without pretense in this nest of vipers. Everything was going perfectly, almost too good to be true. That's when Vanessa Miller walked into the room. Stunning in a red dress that looked painted onto her body, Vanessa moved toward them like a high-end torpedo. Thomas, darling. Her voice was honey-laced with poison as she kissed the chef. Then she turned to Lily with a sharp smile. And the musical assistant, what a surprise to see you here. I invited her as my professional assistant, Thomas explained, tense. Of course you did, Vanessa purred. And what a wonderful job she's doing. Thomas hasn't stopped talking about how inspiring you are. There was something dangerous in the way she stressed that last word. Miss Miller, I was just… Vanessa, please. We're practically family, aren't we? Vanessa stepped closer, pretending to adjust something on Lily's dress but actually whispering in her ear, family of liars. Lily froze. What did she know? The moment was interrupted by the arrival of a tall man with perfectly styled gray hair and a smile as rehearsed as a Broadway number. Thomas Walker, the man of the hour. Thomas visibly tensed. Gordon, I didn't expect to see you here. Oh, I wouldn't miss a chance to see the great Thomas Walker showing off his new talents. Gordon's eyes landed on Lily, inspecting her like a product at the market. And who is this charming young lady? Lily Evans, my kitchen assistant, Thomas answered dryly. Gordon Price, the man said, extending his hand, his eyes never leaving hers. former partner of Thomas's father, current owner of Maison Gordon, and modesty aside, the only chef who's ever made Thomas nervous in the kitchen. Lily shook his hand, feeling something unpleasant in the touch. "Nice to meet you." "The pleasure's all mine, Miss Evans. Thomas has good taste in assistants." Vanessa watched the exchange with calculated interest. Then, as if by accident, she spilled her glass of red wine right onto Helena Monroe's dress as the critic was walking by. "Oh, goodness!" Vanessa exclaimed with fake alarm. "What a mess!" Helena, known for her fiery temper, turned around in fury. "Your red dress will match the wine on your face if that was on purpose. It was an accident." Vanessa looked at Lily in theatrical panic. "Lily, dear, you used to work in cleaning. Could you help?" And before anyone could react, Vanessa pushed Lily forward, making her stumble and knock over the tray of drinks a waiter was carrying, right onto Helena's very expensive gown. The silence that followed was complete. Event photographers turned their lenses in unison, capturing the perfect moment of public humiliation. "I am so sorry," Lily stammered, horrified. "It was an accident. Helena looked ready to turn Lily into soup stock. "You little walking disaster, look what you've done to my Valentino." Thomas tried to step in. "Helena, please, it was clearly an accident caused by your pet amateur." Helena snapped. "I always knew your restaurant was going downhill, Walker, but bringing a dishwasher to an event like this is a new low." Lily felt all her insecurities and doubts about belonging in that world coming true with every word. She was about to run when something extraordinary happened. Without thinking, she began to sing. Not loudly, not to draw attention, but softly, an improvised apology song using the same melody she used to calm unruly dishes at the sink. Her voice, filled with emotion, had a raw and genuine quality that made those around her stop and listen. "Forgive me for the stained dress. It was a careless mistake. It could have been avoided, but fate had its say today." The simplicity and sincerity of the improvised song took Helena by surprise. She looked at Lily as if she were watching a unicorn sing opera. When Lily finished, there was a stunned moment of silence before Helena let out a surprisingly warm laugh. "Well, that's certainly the most original apology I've ever received." She adjusted her glasses, studying Lily with new interest. "You're a peculiar creature, aren't you?" "Only when I'm nervous, or happy, or just existing," Lily replied, a little too honest for her own good. To everyone's surprise, Helena smiled. "Thomas, this assistant of yours is a breath of fresh air. Keep her close, and maybe I'll rethink that negative review I was planning." As Helena walked off to change clothes, Vanessa looked like she'd just swallowed a lemon whole. "How is this possible?" she hissed at Thomas. She was supposed to be humiliated. "Maybe because, unlike some people, she has something money can't buy, Vanessa," he replied coolly. "Authenticity." Gordon, who had been watching the scene with clinical interest, stepped closer to Lily while Thomas argued with Vanessa. "Impressive, Miss Evans, or should I say, Miss Hernandez." Lily turned pale. "How?" "I recognize that kind of talent," Gordon said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I worked with your Aunt Clara, remember? Before Alexander, let's say, restructured the business." "You knew my aunt?" "Knew her very well. I was there when it all happened," he said in a lower voice. "And I can help you prove what Alexander did." Lily felt her heart racing. "Why? Why would you help me?" "Let's just say I've got scores to settle with the Walkers, too. Alexander betrayed me, just like he betrayed your aunt." He slipped her a card discreetly. "Come see me tomorrow. I've got documents you'll want to see." Before she could respond, Thomas appeared beside her again, giving Gordon a cold stare. "Hope you're not trying to steal my assistant, Gordon." The older chef smiled. "Just offering other opportunities. Everyone deserves to know their options." The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Lily managed to get through it without any more mishaps, but she could feel Gordon watching her, his gaze full of unspoken promises. When Thomas drove her home in his fancy car, the silence between them was thick with questions they weren't asking. "What did Gordon want?" he finally asked when they pulled up in front of the modest building where Lily lived. "Nothing important." "Lily," Thomas turned to face her. "Gordon isn't who you think. He was my father's partner and part of all his schemes. Whatever he promised." "He said he has proof," Lily interrupted. "Documents about what happened to my aunt." Thomas closed his eyes for a moment. Of course he said that. He wants to hurt me, and you're the perfect way to do it. Or maybe he's the only one willing to tell the truth, Lily replied, feeling the confusion grow inside her. How can I trust you, Thomas? Your father ruined my aunt's life. He stole everything from her. And I'm trying to understand exactly what happened. His frustration was clear in his voice. Why do you think I want to talk to your aunt? Why do you think I kept you around even when I knew you were hiding something? Because I'm good in the kitchen? She said, with a sad smile. Because there's something about you that... He paused, clearly searching for the right words. Something that makes me want to be better. To do what's right. The air inside the car felt charged. Lily found herself leaning toward him, like something invisible was pulling her closer. Thomas leaned in too, his eyes fixed on her lips. A knock on the window made them jump like teenagers caught by their parents. It was Miguel, holding grocery bags and wearing a mischievous smile. Am I interrupting something? Lily got out of the car like it was on fire, her cheeks burning. No, we were just discussing recipes. Thank you for the ride, chef. See you tomorrow. Before Thomas could answer, she was already inside the building, leaving him alone with a puzzled smile on his face. Inside the apartment, Aunt Clara was waiting anxiously. Well, how did it go? Lily collapsed on the couch, kicked off the heels that had been torturing her, and let out a long sigh. I met Gordon Price. He said he has proof. He wants to help us. Clara visibly tensed. Gordon? That backstabbing snake? She shook her head firmly. Don't trust him, Mia. He's just as guilty as Alexander. But Auntie, what if he really does have documents? The only thing Gordon has is poison. Clara said as she sat down beside her niece. And I can see it in your eyes. There's more. What aren't you telling me? Lily hesitated. Thomas wants to fire me. She lied, not ready to admit the confusing feelings she was starting to have for the son of the man who had ruined her family. Clara nodded, like she was confirming something she already suspected. See? He found out who you are, and now he wants to get rid of you before you find the proof. Or maybe he really does want to make things right, Lily said, surprising herself. What if he's not like his father? Clara studied her niece for a long moment. Mija, are you falling in love with him? No, Lily protested automatically, but even to her own ears the denial sounded weak. Maybe, just a little, like a tiny ant's worth of love, not a whole elephant. Clara let out a deep sigh. The heart is the most dangerous ingredient in any recipe, Lily, especially when it's mixed with revenge and justice. Lily hugged her aunt, feeling the weight of the choices ahead of her. What should I do? Tomorrow, go see Gordon. Find out what he really knows, Clara said after a long pause. But don't trust him completely. And then, maybe it's time I faced a walker again. Across town, Thomas was staring at an old photo in his office, the image of Clara Hernandez smiling next to his father. He'd never noticed it before, but there was something in her eyes that reminded him of Lily, the same mix of fire and kindness. Meanwhile, in her luxurious apartment, Vanessa Miller received a message from her private investigator with full information about Lily Evans Hernandez and her Aunt Clara. A wicked smile formed on her perfect lips as she typed a message to Gordon Price. I've got what you need on the girl. Time to finish what you started 15 years ago. The recipe for disaster kept cooking, now with new and dangerous ingredients thrown into the mix. And the worst part was, for the first time in her life, Lily wasn't sure whose side she was on. Gordon Price's office at Maison Gordon was exactly what Lily expected from a man like him. Flashy, cold, and carefully impressive. Awards were placed to catch the light, photos with celebrities covered an entire wall, and the scent of old money mixed with expensive French cologne. Miss Hernandez, or do you prefer Evans? Gordon motioned to a leather chair that probably cost more than Lily's entire apartment. Coffee? Champagne? Something stronger, perhaps? Only the truth will do, Lily replied, staying on her feet. You said you have proof about what happened to my aunt. Gordon smiled, a gesture that never reached his eyes. Straight to the point. I like that. He opened a drawer and pulled out an old folder. You know, I was there when it all happened. I was Alexander Walker's partner in the beginning, before he pushed me out too. So you witnessed him stealing my aunt's recipes? Gordon paused dramatically. I didn't just witness it, dear. I helped. Lily felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. What do you mean? Business is business. Alexander wanted Clara's recipes, I wanted a bigger share. We made a deal, he shrugged, as if talking about trading cards, not destroying someone's life. Of course, he betrayed me too. The Walkers are like that. It runs in their blood. Why are you telling me this? Why help me now? Gordon stepped closer, his expensive cologne almost overwhelming. Let's just say I have a proposal for you, Lily, one that would benefit both of us. He opened the folder, revealing old documents, original contracts signed by Clara, Alexander's notes on how to use her recipes, even a threatening letter warning she'd be deported if she tried to fight back. These are the proofs we needed, Lily whispered, eyes wide. These are the proofs I have, Gordon corrected. And I'm willing to testify against the Walkers, confirm that Thomas knew everything from the start, that he carried on his father's dirty legacy willingly. But that's not true. Thomas didn't know. Gordon raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? The son who worked with his father since he was 16? Who inherited everything? Who kept using the recipes even after rumors about their origin started? You're naive, dear, or in love? Maybe both. Lily felt her face burn. What's your proposal? Simple. You bring your Aunt Clara to a press conference I'll set up. I'll present the evidence. We ruin Thomas Walker and the Millionaire. Gordon smiled, revealing perfectly straight teeth. Clara gets the recognition she deserves, I get revenge on Alexander through his son, and you, well, I'll offer you a contract as head chef at my restaurant. Everybody wins. Except Thomas, Lily pointed out. He's a Walker. He deserves what's coming to him. Something in Gordon's cold tone sent a chill down Lily's spine. There was more to this story. She was sure of it. I need to think about it. Talk to my aunt. Of course, Gordon said as he put the documents away. But don't take too long. This offer has an expiration date. When Lily left the restaurant, her mind was spinning. The documents seemed real, but there was something deeply unsettling about Gordon's proposal. Her phone rang. It was Miguel. Where are you? You need to come back to the restaurant right now. We've got a full-blown culinary disaster happening. What happened? Vanessa is here. She just announced her engagement to Thomas in front of everyone. Lily felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. Engagement? Yes. She showed up with a huge ring, called the press. Everything. Thomas looks like a fish out of water, trying to breathe. Miguel lowered his voice. And there's more. She told the reporters that you two were having an affair, and that he decided to do the right thing and stay with her. Lily's world started to spin. I'm on my way. At Le Millionaire, chaos ruled. Photographers, reporters, and curious guests filled the main dining room. In the center stood Vanessa, glowing in a white dress, clinging to Thomas's arm. He looked clearly uncomfortable. Oh, here she is! Vanessa exclaimed as soon as she saw Lily enter. The amazing assistant who helped Thomas realize how much he truly loved me. The camera flashes blinded Lily for a moment as her heart sank like a collapsed soufflé. Thomas met her gaze for a split second, full of silent apologies, and something else she couldn't quite read. Let's play a little game for those who only read the comments. Type Coca-Cola in the comments. Only those who made it this far will get it. Now let's continue the story. That's when Lily made her decision. With trembling hands, she typed a message to Gordon. I accept your offer. Let's reveal everything. Rain beat against the windows of the small apartment, as if the sky itself shared Lily's heartache. Sitting at the kitchen table, she stared at the documents Gordon had given her, spread out like painful puzzle pieces. It's all true, murmured Aunt Clara, adjusting her glasses as she looked over the papers. The original contract, Alexander's notes, even the threat letter. So we can prove it? Lily asked, her stomach twisting with a mix of triumph and sorrow. Yes, we can prove it, Clara sighed deeply. But the question is, should we? Lily's confused eyes met her aunt's. What do you mean? Isn't that why I came to New York? To clear your name. Clara shifted in her chair, her tired eyes fixed on her niece. Sweetheart, when you started all this, it was just a story of villains and heroes in your mind. But now I see something different in your eyes when you talk about Thomas Walker. Lily looked away, unable to deny it. It doesn't matter what I feel. He's marrying Vanessa. Maybe. Clara rested her wrinkled hand on Lily's. But before we destroy his life, we need to be sure he deserves it. Lily's phone vibrated. It was Thomas. We need to talk. It's not what it looks like. Come to the restaurant after closing, please. It's him, Lily said, showing the message to her aunt. Clara nodded thoughtfully. Go, take the documents. Confront him directly. What if it's a trap? Then Miguel will be waiting outside, ready to call immigration on us if needed. Clara gave a sad smile. Some truths need to be said face to face, Lily. 2 hours later, Lily stepped into the quiet, empty Le Millionaire. Only a dim light came from the main kitchen. Thomas was there, alone, chopping vegetables with the precision of a surgeon. You came, he said, not looking up from the cutting board. I did, Lily replied, the documents in her bag feeling as heavy as stones. Congratulations on your engagement. Thomas set down the knife and finally looked at her. It wasn't my idea. Vanessa planned the whole thing and announced it without asking me. And that giant ring on her finger? An old gift. She turned it into an engagement ring on her own. He ran his hand through his hair, clearly frustrated. Lily, I'm not going to marry her. Something inside Lily trembled, wanting to believe. Why did you ask me to come? Thomas stepped closer, cautiously, like someone approaching a frightened animal. Because I found something. About my father, your aunt, and Gordon Price. Lily pulled the documents from her bag and spread them out on the counter. This? She challenged. Thomas's eyes widened as he recognized the papers. Where did you get this? Gordon Price. He told me everything. How he helped your father steal my aunt's recipes. How they threatened her and ruined everything she built. Thomas picked up one of the documents, his hand slightly shaking. He's using you, Lily. Gordon is just as guilty as my father. He admitted that, unlike you who keeps pretending to be innocent. Lily's emotional outburst echoed through the empty kitchen. Thomas didn't back down. I was just a teenager when it all happened. By the time I started to suspect something, my father was already sick. And when I found the recipe book with her name on it, he had already passed away. And still you kept using the stolen recipes. Because I wasn't sure. His voice rose to match hers. Not until you showed up with your voice, your talent, your way of being that made me question everything. They were close now, their breaths mixing, years of pain and secrets hanging between them like smoke. Why should I believe you? Lily asked, her voice now barely a whisper. Thomas looked deeply into her eyes. Because I found this. He held out a folder that had been hidden under the kitchen utensils. Inside, a document revealed the full truth. Gordon wasn't just an accomplice. He was the mastermind behind the plan against Clara. Gordon wanted her out from the beginning, Thomas explained. My father was just as manipulated as your aunt was. Before Lily could process what he had just said, the kitchen door swung open. What a touching scene! Vanessa's sharp voice cut through the air. The chef and his dishwasher, scheming behind the fiancé's back. The confrontation was interrupted by Thomas's phone, vibrating insistently. When he answered, his expression shifted from shock to determination. I understand. I'll be there. Vanessa crossed her arms, impatient. What now? I've just been invited to Chef's duel, Thomas announced, a competitive spark in his eyes. Gordon Price challenged me, live on television next week. Lily swallowed hard. This wasn't a coincidence. He planned all of this. Thomas nodded, quickly putting the documents away. Vanessa, we need to talk about this engagement, but it'll have to wait. I have a competition to prepare for. You can't be serious, Vanessa protested. That show is watched by millions. Gordon will humiliate you on national TV. Not if I can help it, Thomas turned to Lily. I need your help. Me? Lily asked as Vanessa let out a mocking laugh. Your assistant? The one plotting with Gordon behind your back? Thomas and Lily exchanged surprised looks. How do you know that? Lily asked. Vanessa's smile was cold. Sweetheart, nothing happens in this city without me knowing, especially when it involves my restaurant. Your restaurant? Thomas frowned. Ours, obviously, Vanessa corrected herself quickly. Thomas, can't you see? She and Gordon are working together to destroy you. Lily stepped forward, facing Vanessa for the first time. You're involved in this too, aren't you? The accidents at the gala, the fake engagement, everything to discredit me. Vanessa's eyes sparkled dangerously. Prove it. Thomas watched the exchange, the pieces finally falling into place. It doesn't matter now. The challenge has been made, and I'm going to accept it. He looked at Lily. With or without your help. 3 days passed. Thomas threw himself into preparing for the competition, while Lily stayed away from the restaurant, torn between her loyalties. At her apartment, Aunt Clara was packing her bags. "You're not going to help him?" she asked, folding an apron neatly. "How could I? After everything that happened?" Lily stopped when she saw her aunt's expression. "What is it? That document Thomas showed you, about Gordon being the real villain. Do you believe him?" Lily hesitated. "Yes, and that scares me even more." Clara gave her a soft smile. "Sweetheart, sometimes revenge doesn't heal old wounds, it only opens new ones." The phone rang. It was Miguel. "Lily, Thomas is a mess," he said. "Vanessa sabotaged everything for the competition. She switched the salt with sugar, hid equipment. It's a nightmare." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because despite everything, you two just worked together in the kitchen. Like pasta and sauce, you know?" On the day of the competition, the studio lights lit up the stage where two chefs were about to face off. Gordon was already in place, smiling confidently at the cameras. Thomas, on the other hand, looked worn out, without his usual team. The host announced the rules, a full menu inspired by traditions that cross borders. The secret theme, origins. Thomas looked at his empty station, no assistant in sight. "Where's your team, Chef Walker?" Gordon teased. "He has me." Lily's melodic voice silenced the studio. She walked confidently toward Thomas, wearing a clean apron and a determined look in her eyes. "You came," he murmured in disbelief. "Someone has to stop you from mixing up salt and sugar," she answered with a small smile. "Besides, I know a few songs that might help with the seasoning." Behind the cameras, Vanessa watched furiously, while Aunt Clara observed everything with a proud sparkle in her eyes. The culinary battle that would decide so many fates was about to begin. The studio buzzed with electric energy, cameras gliding silently, capturing every movement, every drop of sweat, every tense glance. It felt like a battle between modern-day gladiators, only with chef's knives and gourmet ingredients as weapons. "Contestants, get ready," the host announced dramatically. "You have 90 minutes to create a full menu that represents origins. Ready? Cook." Thomas and Lily moved at their station with the harmony of dancers who had practiced for years, not days. He chopped, she seasoned. He flambéed, she tasted. A quiet culinary duet, broken only by brief, whispered instructions. "I can't believe you came," Thomas whispered as he filleted a sea bass with surgical precision. "Me neither," Lily admitted, adding fresh herbs to a simmering broth. "But some truths need to come out, and this competition seems like the perfect place." Across the studio, Gordon led a team of 3 assistants like a general at war, casting confident glances at the cameras and smug smiles toward the opposing team. "They look lost, don't they?" he said loudly enough for the mics to pick up. "Maybe they should ask Clara Hernandez how to make a real Mexican sauce." The whole studio seemed to freeze for a second. Thomas and Lily exchanged alarmed looks. Gordon was playing dirty, trying to bring everything out too soon. "He's trying to throw us off," Thomas murmured. "Focus on the menu." Lily nodded, though her hands trembled slightly. That's when she started humming softly, a gentle melody that slowly brought her calm back. Thomas smiled, oddly comforted by the simple tune. Meanwhile, backstage, Miguel was quietly guiding Aunt Clara to a special seat in the audience, right in Thomas and Lily's line of sight. "Are you sure about this, Mrs. Clara?" he asked, concerned. "Absolutely," she answered, sitting down with dignity. "It's time for the truth, Miguel. All of it." Back at the stations, the competition was heating up. Gordon presented technically flawless dishes: caramelized scallops in saffron sauce, a perfect risotto, lamb, and award-winning wine reduction. Thomas and Lily responded with dishes that told stories: a ceviche blending Mexican and French techniques, a ragu honoring both New York and Puebla, a dessert combining surprising textures with comforting flavors. "We need something more impressive for the main course," Thomas whispered, worried. "Something that tells the whole story." That's when Lily saw her aunt in the audience. Clara smiled gently and made a small gesture, like adding cinnamon to a recipe. Lily's heart raced. "The secret sauce," she murmured. "The one your family stole from my aunt." "Lily, no," she touched his arm gently. "Let's remake it together, the right way, the original version, with my touch and yours, a reconciliation in the form of a sauce." As they worked on the groundbreaking sauce, Vanessa quietly slipped backstage. With a wicked smile, she moved toward the oven temperature controls. But Miguel, already watching her closely, stepped into her path. Looking for the restroom, Mrs. Miller? It's the other way. In the final frantic minutes, Gordon, confident in his win, prepared for his final flourish. When the host came over for a quick interview, he smiled at the cameras. This menu stands for tradition and evolution. Some chefs, he looked meaningfully at Thomas, don't respect the origins of recipes. They take what doesn't belong to them. The cameras caught Thomas's somber expression and Lily's alarmed eyes. That's when Clara Hernandez stood up in the audience, catching everyone's attention. "Tell us more about respecting origins, Gordon," she said. Her voice, though aged, carried the kind of authority that silenced the whole studio. "Maybe you should explain how you and Alexander Walker stole from me, how you suggested I be threatened with deportation." Gordon visibly paled. "Clara? What are you doing here?" The cameras spun wildly, capturing the unexpected drama. The host, sensing TV gold, moved toward Clara. "Ma'am, would you care to explain these accusations?" Clara walked to the center of the studio between the two cooking stations. "Gladly. I'm Clara Hernandez, the real creator of the recipes that made Le Millionaire famous." In a move that shocked everyone, Thomas stepped away from his station and joined Clara. "It's true," he confirmed, his face showing raw honesty. "My father stole her recipes, and I, without fully knowing, kept using them." The studio erupted in shocked whispers. Gordon tried to interrupt. "He's lying. It was his idea all along." "I have documents that prove otherwise," Thomas announced, revealing the folder he had shown Lily days earlier. Gordon didn't just take part in the theft, he was the mastermind behind the whole plan. The cameras zoomed in on the incriminating documents. "And I can confirm that," added Vanessa, shocking everyone as she stepped out from behind the scenes. "Gordon came to me weeks ago, once he found out Lily was working at Le Millionaire. He planned all of this." The final betrayal left Gordon frozen in place, as the truth finally came to light in front of millions of viewers. I'll now translate the second part with the same tone and approach. Got it. I'll rewrite Chapter 10 with 900 words, including a more elaborate and emotional marriage proposal, ending with a memorable wedding. Here it is. The poor girl was washing dishes, singing with a teacup in hand, unaware that the millionaire chef couldn't take his eyes off her. Chapter 10. The Song of Love. 6 months later, the fogged windows of a restaurant in the heart of Manhattan reflected colorful lights and lively silhouettes. A sleek sign above the door read, "Canto and Sabor, Cuisine with a Story." The former Le Millionaire had been completely transformed. The decor now blended elegant French details with vibrant Mexican touches. Most importantly, hanging on the wall among awards and glowing reviews was a framed photo of Clara Hernandez and Thomas Walker cutting the ribbon together at the grand opening, a silent testament to justice and reconciliation. In the kitchen, Thomas watched as Lily plated the final dishes with the same graceful rhythm that had enchanted him that very first night. "The critics are absolutely thrilled," Miguel announced, now the official bar manager and a sommelier in training. The Times critic wrote the word sublime 15 times in his notes. Lily blushed, adjusting the elegant sous chef uniform that still felt like an unlikely dream every morning. "It's the new sauce. Aunt Clara fine-tuned the recipe yesterday." "No, dear," Aunt Clara said, stepping forward with restored dignity and a spark in her eyes. "It's your song that brings flavor to every dish. It always has." Thomas checked his watch nervously for the 10th time in 5 minutes. "Is everything ready for tonight?" he asked Miguel, trying and failing to sound casual. "Everything's set, boss. The special table, the lights, the flowers, the orchestra, that ultra-rare champagne we smuggled straight from the Pope's private cellar." Miguel stopped when he saw Thomas's panic-stricken look. "I mean, yes, the basics are ready." Lily raised an eyebrow, suspicious. "You're all acting stranger than flaming ice cream. What's going on?" "Special night." Thomas, Miguel, and Clara all said at once, far from convincingly. 6-month anniversary of the restaurant, Thomas added quickly. "Which just happens to fall on a Tuesday?" Lily asked, skeptical. "Anniversaries are unpredictable like that," Miguel said wisely. "They show up on the most unexpected days." Before Lily could ask any more questions, Thomas gently suggested she go rest and get ready for the evening's special service. Growing more suspicious, but agreeing to play along for now, she left. The transformation of the restaurant that afternoon was remarkable. The main dining room had become a magical indoor garden, with thousands of tiny lights like stars, fresh flowers on every surface, and in the center, the white piano Lily occasionally played when she thought no one was listening. At 8 o'clock, wearing a midnight blue dress secretly ordered for the occasion by Clara and Miguel, Lily stepped into the restaurant and froze in the doorway. What on earth? The restaurant was full, but not with regular customers. Every familiar face from her life in New York was there, smiling at her. Fellow kitchen staff, suppliers who had become friends, even her old co-workers from the dishwashing station. In the front row, seated in places of honor, were her cousin from Mexico and the cousin's young children, dressed in their best clothes, brought in secretly for the surprise. At the center of it all stood Thomas, flawless in a tuxedo, looking both terrified and determined. "Good evening, everyone," he began, his voice a little shaky, but gaining strength. "Thank you for being here on this special night." Thomas walked over to Lily, gently taking her hands. "They say life is made of defining moments, little choices that change everything. For me, one of those moments was when I walked into the kitchen off hours and found a dishwasher singing with such feeling that she turned an ordinary teacup into something magical." A wave of tender laughter moved through the crowd as Lily fought back the tears beginning to form. "You changed my kitchen before even touching a single pot," Thomas went on. "You came in like a whirlwind of honesty and pure talent, turned my perfectly organized life upside down, and rebuilt it into something so much better." He led Lily to the piano, where an elegant teacup rested, the same one she had used as a microphone on that very first day, now restored and placed on a velvet cushion. "Before I ask you the most important question of my life, I have one request. One last performance as the dishwasher?" With her heart full, Lily picked up the teacup, sat at the piano, and began to play and sing. Not a famous song, but the simple, heartfelt melody she had made up during those long hours in the kitchen. The same one Thomas had heard the day their lives became forever connected. As the final note faded, Thomas knelt beside the piano. But instead of pulling out a ring box, he signaled to Miguel, who brought over a covered tray, just like the ones they used to serve fancy dishes to customers. "Every great chef knows that presentation is just as important as flavor," Thomas said, lifting the cover to reveal not only a stunning ring, but a perfect miniature of the kitchen where they first met, with two tiny figures, one washing dishes and singing, the other watching, completely captivated. "Lily Evans Hernandez," his voice now strong and steady, "you came into my life to settle old scores, but instead you created a brand new recipe, one filled with love, truth, and music. Will you marry me? Not just to fix the past, but to build a future that sounds just as beautiful as your songs." Through laughter and tears, Lily answered, "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Then, with her usual humor, she added, "But you know I'll still be singing to the dishes, right?" "I wouldn't expect anything less," he replied, placing the ring on her finger, as the entire restaurant erupted in applause. 3 months later, an industrial kitchen set up right on the beach in Tulum, Mexico, buzzed with activity. Thomas and Lily's wedding couldn't happen anywhere else but where food was being made, under the open sky, with the ocean as their witness. Aunt Clara, glowing in her traditional Mexican dress, oversaw the banquet preparations with her usual confidence. Miguel, the nervous best man, checked the drinks for the 20th time, making sure every glass was perfectly in place. The makeshift altar was a masterpiece. Polished kitchen utensils arranged like floral sculptures, a wooden spoon arch woven together, and at the center, hanging like a sacred symbol of their beginning, the teacup Lily had used as a microphone. When the bride finally appeared, wearing a dress that blended Mexican tradition with modern elegance, Thomas couldn't hold back his tears. She walked down the sandy aisle softly humming, unaware of the powerful effect her voice still had on him. Their vows were full of laughter and emotion, promises of shared recipes, melodies composed together, and the commitment that no broken dish or burnt sauce would ever shake what they had built. At the end of the ceremony, as the officiant announced the kiss, Thomas surprised everyone by pulling a wooden spoon from his jacket pocket and handing it to Lily. "My baton, for the conductor of my life," he said solemnly. Lily took the spoon and, raising it like a true maestro, led them into the perfect kiss, filled with love, honesty, and a touch of humor, just like the one-of-a-kind recipe they had created together. As the guests celebrated late into the night with music, amazing food, and shared stories, Aunt Clara watched the couple dancing under the stars. "The best revenge," she murmured to Miguel, "is a life well lived, and maybe a good sauce." "And a millionaire chef who can't take his eyes off her," Miguel added with a wink. On the improvised dance floor, Thomas spun Lily around, his eyes never leaving hers, just like that first day in the kitchen, when a simple dishwasher sang into a teacup, not knowing the millionaire chef couldn't stop watching her. What did you think of Lily and Thomas's story? Leave your thoughts in the comments. On a scale of 0 to 10, how would you rate this story? Subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell so you don't miss any of our stories. And feel free to click here on the end screen to enjoy more touching stories.